Thanks for coming for this last session for the first day. You will be very exhausted. So after the nice talk about Bachem, so I think it's a good opportunity to show you a little bit of the resins that we are developing in Purolite for peptide synthesis and purification. So Purolite is a global company with 4 production plants in the world, more than 45 global sales offices. We have 5 R&D centers, more than 1,400 employees, and we are the number 2 in ion exchange resins and absorbents. In 2012, we started a nice adventure of Purolite Life Science. So it's a family of products for the life science market. So after being a very good, reputed player in the ion exchange and absorbents, we started a new family of products for life science applications. So we have a nice product line of Presto, which is an agarose line for biomolecule purification. So if you need to purify monoclonal antibodies or very large proteins, this is the product that makes for you. Biocatalysis, so I talked about this last year, so it's a line of products for use of enzymes in the pharmaceutical industry. Chromalite resins for purification, and we are ready now to launch a platform of resins for peptide synthesis. This will make a very nice complete portfolio of resins that should be able to beat also the big players in the market of resins. So about the product types that we are going to launch. So the official launch will be at ICSE next year in Boston. So all the resins are based on styrene divinyl benzene, so they are gel type, and they will be functionalized with different functional groups and linkers to be able to sustain all the needs of the modern peptide synthesis. So I will go a little bit in the details of the different chemistry. I'm sorry, I put a lot of chemical structures, but I like the chemical structures. So the core resin, as I mentioned, it will be a polystyrene. So it's a very robust resin, very strong. So it's at a very low percentage of cross-linking with the divinyl benzene, so 1%. This allows to the resin to have a very high swelling. In very apolar solvent, you see some common data of swelling of the resins, and very chemically stable. So we will create a product line with the same backbone, very strong. The first resin will be a chloromethyl resin, so it's a Merrifield resin that is on the market from more than 30 years. So it will be a particle size of 75, 150 micron with a loading of 1.0, 1.6 millimoles per gram, which allows, after the coupling of the first amino acid, to have a nice loading of 0.4, 0.6 millimoles per gram. What is nice of the Merrifield resin is a very wide resin that you can use for making nucleophilic displacements of chlorine, so it's very reactive, it's very stable, the resin, and is used for many different applications, and also as a scavenger resin, because the chlorine can be used for coupling different compounds. The other resin is the aminomethyl resin, so the same chemical backbone, styrene divinyl benzene with amino groups, so after functionalization with the chlorine. So the aminomethyl resin has a long history in the peptide synthesis as a core resin. So for further functionalization with linkers, because after you couple with the amino groups with the linker, you create an amide bond, which is really, really stable. The chlorotrityl resin, called also 2-CTC, has been widely used in a solid phase organic synthesis and peptides. It's cleaved with this time with acetic acids. And it's particularly useful because it's very bulky resin with the functional groups, the trityl groups. So it's very good to prevent cyclization of peptides and racemization. So it's used to immobilize acids, alcohol, and also amines and thiols. Why we choose the chlorotrityl resin instead of trityl resin? Because it has a better stability. So we have developed our own method of production of this resin, so to show very good performance. So we have supplied already samples to big players of this resin with very good performance. This resin is already a pre-linked resin, so it's a one resin, it's a very old style resin, so it's widely used in the solid phase synthesis for acid substrates, so it's good for the FMOC chemistry. And the linker is attached to the polystyrene through the hydroxybenzyl alcohol. And the cleavage is done with this resin with a 3-fluoroacetic acid. The last resin will be the MBHA resin. So it's a resin with this kind of linker that is for the Bock chemistry this time, and is very stable amide or amino linkage. You need, in this case, very strong acid condition to cleave the substrates. So this panel of resins, we start with only the core resins with the linkers, so available on the request also the preloaded amino acid, but the target for us is really to enter in the resin market for peptide synthesis. We have a more long experience in resins for peptide purification, and this is, I think, is the nice offer of Purolite to offer a full package for synthesis and also purification. So for the peptide purification, among all the products that we have in Chromalite for molecule purification, the most interesting products are in the range of 5, 10, and 15 microns, so the AD product and the PCG product. So they are strong resins, macroporous, because the peptide is a big molecule, the polydivinyl benzene, so very chemically stable, and absorbents that can be also functionalized to get ion exchange functionalities. Here, to show you the particle size that we have available using proprietary technology, I will show you at the end a nice picture how we make these resins. So we start from 5 micron analytical HPLC. We are working to go down to 3 and 4. We are still working on that. So we have 10 and 15, which is really the preparative HPLC that works for peptide purification. And then we go up to 75 and larger particle size, which is more for different kind of molecules, is typically for purification of molecules made by fermentation. So for peptide is really 10 and 15 micron. In the product line, you see all in these kind of products. So I will show you some examples of the reverse phase. So the AD and PCG products. So the AD and PCG products are, you see in the first line, so they are macroporous, very strong, robust, good porosity to allow the permeation of molecules as peptides. Whereas we have also the ion exchangers that are used also for peptides when you have to also do purification of peptides or ion exchanger, I will show you with the acetate form. The new entry in red, we are quite proud of this, so we are developing now a full line of products, ion exchanger in 15 and 10 microns. So if you are interested also to test, this is the new entry, so it's the 1582Q, so it's a quaternary amine, very useful for purification of peptides through ion exchanger. We provide also all these products in columns, I will show you now. How we make these products? So usually resins are made in a Gaussian mode. You see the batch emulsification, so you get the Gaussian, and then you have to screen to create the particle size that you need. Purolite has developed a nice way to produce resins that are jetted. So you see the second picture. What is this method? This method allows to create very uniform. You see the picture of how they look. This gives an economic advantage to us because we can provide you resins that have a very competitive price and a very nice advantage in the application because narrow is the particle size, better is the separation, and better is the performance in purity and separation of the final peptide. So we have this technology that is used from 10 microns to also the industrial resins that we use as an example in the sweetener industry, so very large particle size. So we can go up to 500 micron with this kind of technology. All the resins are now also prepacked in HPLC columns. We offer the analytical and the preparative columns. We have a partner, of course, to do this. We are not expert in packing columns. So this is a tool for testing our resins in a professionally way, very packed in a perfect way. Here I want to show you a little bit of some data on how we control the porosity for efficient separation. So here we compare a nice PCG, so our product divinyl benzene resin against the material that is on the market for many years, the source 15RP. So you see the profile of porosity. So the PCG 1200 has a narrow porosity range, and this allows a better separation because you exclude some molecules, whereas in the first case, you have a broader porosity range. This is a nice comparison with, again, with the PCG 1200 with a synthetic material that is quite comparable in performance. And this is how they look, the beads, after making this jetting or another technology that we call seeding. So you get a product that is very uniform. You see the uniformity coefficient. Probably you are not familiar, but the UC that we measure is a measure of the deviation from the middle of the curve, of the Gaussian curve that you get. So closest to 1, better is the product. So the resins are also very stable to pressure and chemically stable. So in that graph, I show the back pressure of a product in 15 microns, and you can get in pressure up to 200 bars. You don't need 200 bars in a typical process with 15 micron, but the resin is very, very good and stable. And this is a nice analysis as an example of purification of insulin. We have different projects where we are trying to replace the insulin, the silica material with our synthetic material. So you see on the right, you see a synthetic material from Mitsubishi compared to a Dow and a silica. And our material performs quite well in both particle size. So in the first one is a larger particle size, is a preparative particle size. Sorry, the preparative particle size is on the bottom 35 micron and on the top 15 micron. The AD materials, so they are the divinyl benzene material, they are optimal for reverse phase separation of hydrophobic molecules. And here we report some data on different small organic hydrophobic molecules. So the aim of this, of course, we are not targeting to purify these kind of molecules, but the target is to show that the performance are comparable and in some case better than some products on the market because you get a longer separation, so you can separate better some molecules. This is again a selectivity of our AD1 against the PRP. This is some example of amino acids. Okay, you will bear me. We are not peptide manufacturers, so we do very basic examples. So I know that in the market and in production, you do much more complex molecules. But this was to show you really what is the difference between our material and competition. So in our case, with the 1581, even if the particle size is larger, because it's 15 micron compared to the 10 micron, we have an excellent separation between the two peaks. Here we compare, again, the two particle size with the same particle size. So 10 micron in the both cases, and the separation is still good, better in our case. So. And this is a nice comparison with the silica material. So on the top, there is 5 micron. So it's analytical HPLC, a silica material. And our material in 10 microns, so double the particle size, does not perform bad at all. So it's a good alternative to silica in some applications. Again, here is a comparison with other aromatic compounds, so PLRP versus the AD2 material, and we have very similar profile in both materials. Again, here we compare the 10 microns, so better resolution, with the 15 micron with larger particle size. Here there are other molecules of phenylhalide compounds, and again we compare a 5 micron with another material on the market, and you see that our material has a little bit different selectivity, so you have a better separation with the blue line. Another application we are working on for the peptide purification is not only the HPLC, but we have a nice product line called CGC and CGA. So what they are, this kind of material? In this case, they are gel, polystyrene material with different cross-linking, 2, 4, and 8% if there is a mistake. So they are gel type, and they are very good for ion exchanger. A nice application in the peptide synthesis is when you cleave the peptide from a solid phase, you get the peptide in a 3-fluoroacetic form, and you need to transform the peptide in the acetate form, ready to be lyophilized. So we can provide the resin as ion exchange in the acetate form. So we can provide the resin that you can use directly to do the ion exchange transformation. And plus, since it's the final step in your peptide synthesis, we provide also all the regulatory support files. So it's a resin that you can use in pharmaceutical production. To summarize, why Purolite as a new player in the peptide synthesis? Because we are the world premier resin technology manufacturer. So we supply the market in all the high-level qualified markets. So we serve the APIs, we provide APIs. We are in the food industry. We are more and more in the medical devices. So we know how to make resins with high quality and with the need of the market in regulatory. Now we are becoming the largest resin manufacturer in the life science, so we cover very different applications. These resins are made in Europe, so you will have quality, regulatory support file, and specialists in the application. So we have the team of people who will work with you to develop the application and to understand which resin to use. So the resins for solid phase peptide synthesis will be ready on the market for TIDES next year. So I make promotion of another conference. But if you need a sample for evaluation, we are very happy to provide, so to share the results and to understand if we can improve. Thank you for your attention. So I take the opportunity to invite you, if you have some questions, to our booth. It's just 50 meters from here. It's in the stand in the hall number 8. And tomorrow, my colleague, Fred Gunham, will give another lecture at +4 on the absorbance for purification of APIs in the pharmaceutical market, so larger particle size. Thank you.